Good morning, and happy Easter. Welcome to the home of Unitarian Universalism in Central Washington. I'm Chris Rader, and I'm glad to be your celebrant this Easter morning, along with our worship leader, Reverend Thomas Perchlick. If today is your first visit, we're so glad you're here, or your second visit, or your third visit, or if you've been coming for a long time, we're really glad you're here. So we welcome every person of goodwill, just as you are, whatever your religious background or beliefs, no matter what you look like, whom you love, you are welcome here. All are invited to stay after the service for coffee, treats, and conversation. And welcome to the folks on Zoom. Zoom participants, you will find the order of service and the song lyrics in the chat. Owen Barnes is our Zoom host today. So will the folks in the sanctuary turn around and wave to everybody on Zoom? There's a camera above the exit sign. Hello there. And now please take a moment and greet those around you today, especially someone you don't know well. We have a few announcements. First of all, it was wonderful seeing a lot of us at our celebration dinner last night. And we want to thank that Thursday afternoon Covenant group for organizing it, doing a lot of the work, and especially Kathy Lau for organizing and being the MC. And the dinner was in celebration of our pledge drive, and Larry Tabiska, our treasurer, has a little announcement about that.
Good morning. As treasurer, I have the responsibility to adjust our budget if necessary after our pledge drive. Things are coming in quite well. It looks like we probably won't have to do that, assuming that people who normally pledge do so the regular amount, and we're nearly there. But the Finance Committee will be meeting the second week in May to take a look at that, and I want you to save us a lot of work. And those of you who haven't come in, and just make sure you get those pledges in, and we'll be ready to rock and roll for another fiscal year. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry. And there are some pledge forms back there on the table right behind Tom. Our social justice team would like your help in identifying issues that the congregation identifies as priorities for our social justice work. If you haven't taken their very short survey, please do so today. Those forms are also behind Tom on that table back there. Our next newcomer chat will be in 2 weeks on May 4th. If you've begun attending our services recently and want to get to know us better, please come. We have snacks and a little conversation. We'd love to get to know you, too. And Owen has an announcement.
Good morning. Well, I have something written out here, and it's kind of funny, so it's not funny, anyway. Pack your bags and get ready. It's an unforgettable summer camping adventure coming. We're heading outdoors for a weekend full of fun, fresh air, and friendship. This is going to happen August 22nd through the 24th. This is going to be at Squilchuck State Park. I have an address, but that will be posted in a later email. And who is invited? All of you. Join our beloved community for a weekend filled with games, hiking, good food, and meaningful connection. Whether you're a seasoned camper or it's your first time sleeping out under the stars, this weekend will be one to remember. More information will be available the closer we get to our camping trip. And if anyone has a desire to help with planning or preparation, please, you can contact myself, Linnea Shannon, Heather Coonrod, or Lori Riegert. Thank you.
Great. Good fun. Thank you. Our fellowship buildings and our homes are located on the ancestral homeland of the Pasquosa, otherwise known as the Wenatchee Band of the Colville Confederated Tribes. Since time immemorial, the Pasquosa have lived here and been custodians of this land. We acknowledge that their land was infringed upon during the 1800s because the U.S. government broke treaty obligations and allowed uninvited white colonizers to settle here on Pasquosa homeland. The Pasquosa still live here, still practice their cultural traditions, and are still working to have those treaty obligations fulfilled. And now Reverend Thomas has some opening words before we sing our first song.
Worship is a collective act of affirming what is of greatest worth. And to call you to the spirit of worship and the act of worship, I have these words by Reverend Peggy Clark. Easter is a holiday of miracles. It speaks of life from death, joy from sorrow, celebration from mourning. Easter reminds us that all is never lost, that the story continues as long as we are here to tell it. So now gather up your worries so that we can bury them beneath the sun-warmed ground and watch them transform into flowers of hope, pushing through the earth, reminding us on this morning that love always brings us back to life, calls us from sadness, from grief, from anxiety, into a world renewed and alive and filled with joy once again.
And now please rise in body or spirit, and we'll sing our first song, Lo, the Earth Awakes Again. You may not know the words, but you're going to know the tune probably. It's hymn number 61. In Unitarian Universalist congregations all around the world, the chalice and flame symbolize people gathering together in loving community and inspiration. If you at home have your chalice with you, please join us now in lighting it. Here in the sanctuary, we will speak these lighting words in unison. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek and seek to share.
Everything that we know about Jesus, about the historical Jesus, comes from 4 books which are called the Gospels, which means the good news. Each gospel is named for its author, or assumed author, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Today I'm going to give you Mark's version, because I know most Unitarian Universalists do not read the Bible all that often. And sometimes, though we think we have heard it over and over, it's good to hear it yet again and to understand that there is not simply one story. This is key to UU understandings. Our goal is not to make all views the same, but to note the differences and the similarities, and then wonder about why that is. The 4 Gospels all tell us that Jesus was falsely accused of a crime. He was killed on a cross in punishment by a rather cruel government. A guy named Joseph of Arimathea had a tomb that he'd carved in rock for himself, and instead he put Jesus' body in that tomb. And the tomb was sealed with a large stone. It's rolled over the opening like a door, and only Matthew says that there were guards there. Then Mark tells what happened 3 days later. Mark says, when the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome brought spices so that they might anoint Jesus' body. This was a common practice when someone died. Now John, in his gospel, says it was only Mary Magdalene who went. And Matthew said it was only the two Marys. And Luke says it was Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, Joanna, and several others. But Mark only mentions 3. Mark continues, very early on the first day of the week, just after sunrise, they were on their way to the tomb. And they asked each other, who will roll away the stone from the entrance of the tomb? But when they got there and looked up, they saw that the stone, which was very large, had been rolled away. And as they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in white robes, sitting on the side, and they were alarmed. Now, the other 3 Gospels tell us very different things at this point in the story. John says there were 2 angels when Mary came alone to the tomb, and they asked her, woman, why are you crying? And she responded, they have taken my Lord away, and I don't know where they've put him. Luke tells us that the several women did not find the body of Jesus and were wandering around wondering about this when suddenly 2 men in clothes that gleamed like lightning stood right beside them, suddenly. But it says men. And in their fright, the women bowed suddenly with their faces to the ground, and the men said to them, why do you look for the living among the dead? Matthew says there was a violent earthquake because an angel of the Lord came down from heaven and going to the tomb rolled back the stone and sat on it. Matthew's the only one who mentions who it is who might have rolled away the stone. The angel looked like lightning and his clothes were white as snow. Matthew also notes that the guards at the tomb were so afraid that they shook and became like dead men. I imagine they just fainted, but it's hard to tell what he's saying. Remember, in Mark's version, there was only one man, dressed in white, sitting in the tomb, and the 3 women are there in the tomb with him. And he says, don't be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus, the Nazarene, who was crucified. He has risen. He's not here. See the place where they laid him. It is empty. Go now, tell his disciples and Peter that he's going ahead of you into Galilee, and there you will see him, just as he told you would. So that is a story. A story from ancient times in our honor. Easter, and part of Easter, always part of Easter. A story with commentary from others. Now we have at least 4 or 5 children here, and if you want to, the children can stay and listen to a very adult sermon about death and resurrection and stuff like that. Or you can go hang out with Mari in the back room. So let's make a arch here. Oh, and there's an Easter egg hunt. Yeah, that's very special. Any adults who would rather do an errand? To find meaning in the spirit of love that we share. Each week we set aside a time to share, to remember, to honor. Time of sharing and honoring is a sacred time to form deeper community and connections. If you wish to speak, you may come forward. We have a microphone, not this little standing microphone, that's just for the choir. We have another microphone, I'll be holding that. You can say your name into the microphone and speak something that brings joy to you or that brings you sorrow and concern. Try to be brief with this, try to keep short. Only share things that you've been given, especially about other people, that you've been given permission to share. And let us remember the sacredness of this time together. If you want to sit in silent meditation for half an hour, you can go over to the Stone Blossom Sangha, but we only do it for about 1 minute here. When the three women in Mark's gospel were walking to the tomb to honor Jesus and place a blessing on his body, they asked, "Who will roll away the stone?" I will look at 3 possible answers to this question today. Was it Jesus? Was it his community? Or was it an angel? Whatever we conclude about the story, if we feel trapped, if we feel burdened, if we feel as though things are not going well and we are in a tomb, there is still hope. We can still call upon that same power in this world to roll away any stone that traps and condemns us. In addition to the 4 Gospels, I did find another version of the story. The 2 Marys come to the tomb, and they find the stone is still in place, and one man is there. He's arranged something. Maybe he put his cat in the tomb, and he says, let's see the slide. He says, as long as the tomb is closed, Jesus is both alive and dead. This is, of course, Schrodinger, the forgotten disciple. If you know anything about particle physics, you'll understand. The world is always hard to understand. It is important to emphasize that I'm really not much interested in what exactly happened in the 1st century. People who were there or near there couldn't get the story straight. I've had many Christian leaders who have told me the point of the difference of the story is not to set it in stone, but to remind yourself that you never know exactly how people hear reality, how people experience reality, how people understand what is going on. People in ancient days did not rigidly distinguish objective scientific reality from the complexity of human experience. They were looking for what was meaningful. They cared about how the stories would shape and inspire them, and so we care about how these stories might shape and inspire us today. When we're faced with a condition or a power that seems to seal us into a doom, what can help us find new ways to be happy? What can help us find hope for liberation? So first, one possibility is that it is Jesus that rolls away the stone. Of course, no one person could do this. Especially from inside a tomb, it's really hard to do. But in classic Christian theology, Jesus is the embodiment of the power of God in the world, or in Trinitarian theology, he is God in the world. The Unitarian Universalists have always approached Christian ideals a way to say that the Spirit is present in Jesus, or the Spirit of God is in Jesus. And our goal is not to believe that he has the magic power, but to try to live in the way that he said we should live. Try to live in the way that he lived. Either way, the hope for each person is to have that power, to roll away the stone. This sermon actually started when I was listening to a Unitarian Universalist singer-songwriter, couple of months back. Leah Morris, you may know her, Leah. Woman of African American heritage, Unitarian Universalist, good songwriter. And she wrote a song called Roll Away the Stone, and I'll tell you the lyrics, sort of condensed into a poem. Your prayers are not in vain if you will roll away the stone. Your tears are not in vain. You can make a change, I know, if you will roll away the stone. The stone that blocks your heart, the stone that tells you not to start, the stone that says you're wasting your time. Roll away the stone that makes you feel small, the stone that tells you to run, convinced that nothing can be done. Your work is not in vain. Your dreams are not in vain. You are not alone. Roll away the stone. All great spiritual work, all great spiritual power begins in the individual, in the heart, in the mind, inside yourself. So on Easter morning, I encourage you to find the source of your well-being and roll away any stone that condemns your worth and your dignity and your goodness and your power. Kenneth Kraft, a Buddhist teacher, was writing on meditation in action. And he said, one need not wait until war is declared and bullets are flying in order to work for peace. A more constant and equally urgent battle must be waged each day against the forces of one's own anger, carelessness, self-absorption. We must roll the stone of anger and carelessness and self-absorption from our minds. Sometimes it's your own mind that seals you into doom and despair. So if you affirm the vision of being powerful and happy and do the work of becoming aware of goodness and well-being in your own life, in your own mind, and then sharing that with others, you'll be like Jesus, rolling away the stone. But the scriptures do not say that Jesus rolled away the stone. And Matthew says it's an angel that does it. I like the reference to sparkly clothes and clothes like lightning and looking like lightning. I imagine there's a lot of glam and glitter going on there. The existentialist skeptic will say, we're all under the sentence of death and no one gets out of it. Ultimately, each of us has only limited power. We cannot roll away giant stones or forces, political forces that have taken power. We have no power. And if we're going to do all the work of transforming ourselves and rising up just to end in the same dead state as everyone else, what's the point? So we move to a second understanding in the story. Find the strength of community. Find the other people who will move that stone away, and you come into the tomb maybe thinking you're going to be there forever, and it's already rolled away. They've rolled open the door, and you can come and see them smiling, happy. I'm thinking also, as I was thinking, this is just kind of how my mind works, I was thinking about this idea of being trapped trapped in a grave, and I thought about Star Wars. And I thought about when Luke and Han and Leia are down in the garbage masher, and the steel walls are crushing in on them, and they're trying everything they can. It's ridiculous to even try to stop these gigantic forces. They're trying, and then all of a sudden, Luke gets the voice of his friends, of CPO and R2-D2, and he says, shut down all the crushers on the detention level. And they can do it. They not only stop the walls, but they actually open up the door. They roll open some electric door, and they can get out. Sometimes we need to find our friends. We need to find the other people who have the spirit and the energy, who are organized, who can come together and join their power and make a difference. Leah Morris repeats that line. You are not alone. Roll away the stone. You are not alone. Roll away the stone. So who are these men dressed in white? You give the news and truth to the women. Most atheists go with Matthew. or artists will go with Matthew, or everybody goes with Matthew, and they just assume that they have wings and they're magic beings from some transcendent realm. They're to say death does not have the last word. But the point is that the women have gone to anoint Jesus' body to say that death does not have the last word. They go to anoint his body because not only did his life matter, but it still matters. And they want there to be a blessing and an affirmation. Instead of him dying and being forgotten like a rotten criminal who is hated by the state, he is being honored with the burial of a rich person. These women, more than the male disciples, understand that death is not the last word. They are the first to learn of the resurrection. They are the ones who inform the disciples. The women have to go inform the men. They are the first to actually see Jesus' resurrected self. Whether they're seeing it through their heart and their love or in some magical physical way, they are the first because they understand the power of life and friends and community and staying connected and standing for one another. Today, no matter what, I'm insisting that what matters is that you are not alone. You must find how your community draws out of family and friends and this fellowship. The fellowship who all have the spirit and the understanding of what is good and what can endure. I've been moved by the weekly protests around this country. Gatherings of people, hundreds of cities across the country, crying out, this is not right. There are so many things. I like the little sign 2 weeks ago. It said, too many things to put on one side. People are unhappy with the shoot first, aim later policy of the federal government. I've been thinking a lot about Kilmar Abrego Garcia and his family, a loving father of 3, lived here for 15 years in American society, and then was sent without due process to a notorious prison in El Salvador because of rumors and clothes made him associated with gang members. Not his life, not his spirit, not his actions, just his clothes and rumors from others. And this is not justice, and this is not goodness. And now he is in a tomb. And 2 presidents of 2 countries, a most powerful country and a smaller country, get together and say, oh, nothing we can do. We're powerless. And then friends of Garcia go and stand in streets and call out and demand that we do something. And we get a senator from Maryland to go all the way down to El Salvador. And then when he gets there, they say, oh, well, you can't see him. And then the next day, somehow, magically, he's able to come out of the prison and talk to a senator from the United States. Not the president, of course. For some strange reason. And the strange reason is that he had community. He has hundreds of people who have been added to his community. Thousands of people who have been added to his community who are joining together their powers and demanding that the stone be rolled away and he be brought back out. In ancient Rome, there was always this power. They were more afraid of a violent rising up of Jewish people to reclaim their country than they were of being unjust and cruel and unfair. The Roman soldiers and the Roman emperor and the Roman senators and representatives were more willing to kill one person as a representative of their power, to establish their power, than they were to see what was right, to see what was good, to affirm the loving justice that Jesus tried to speak about and invoke and live by. So all of us must find that community, join together, work. Look for that day when the power of love overwhelms the love of power. To find the legal and practical means to pressure the powerful to do what is right. to roll the legal and practical stones out of the way. But our power is limited always. We try to share power, but it has its limits. Try to find ways to create community, and still, Rodrigo Garcia is still in prison. Right? And all. I read an article the other day. It had a list of some 35 people, just stories, telling the stories of people who've been unjustly and cruelly treated by current shifts in our national policy. And we, especially as Unitarian Universalists who have been integral to the leadership and the direction of this country, have always wanted America to be a place of compassion and truth and justice. So sometimes we have to find some power beyond our own power, not just community. And that's why the stories are interesting, that they bring in angels. Because there's something that's more than just 6 men pushing a stone. There's something else beyond just women coming to move away the stone. It's about the magical things that happen, the unexpected things that happen, that there is always something. And we have different names for it. Some people speak about the Buddha Dharma, the Dharma of the Buddha, this power that is moving in the world, shaping all of our lives, and we can wake up to it. When we wake up to it, we become more open, clearer, more compassionate. And people speak about Mahadevi, the great mother who loves us no matter what, and is calling us, always calling us back into her loving arms, back into the family of all living things. And there are atheists who just simply speak about the goodness of the human heart and the power of human community, and the way, in some magic way, that intelligence has come into living things to make lives better. Also making lives worse in some ways. And so we have to use our intelligence, we have to use our compassion to make things better. And the last story I wanted to tell is a different story. It's a story of a woman that I knew who was a Unitarian Universalist. She was born in 1924 in Germany, a Jewish woman, born in Germany. 1924, things are not going so great, and they get worse rather quickly. And it was actually in 1931 when Germany finally shut down the ability to deport people. And that was another poster I liked. The Holocaust began with deportations. And when the deportation stopped, then the Holocaust is in full force. So this woman in 1939 is desperate to get out. She's 17 years old. And her brother has already gotten to the United States. He was 2 years older, and he'd gone off. And he can't get her. He can't connect. He can't find the people with the resources to get her out of that country. She's trapped in Germany, and she knows it's going to become a tomb. And she is very afraid. She told me this story years later when I met her as an old woman, remembering her childhood. As a Unitarian Universalist, when she later was alive, she learned that the Unitarian Universalists in Czechoslovakia were very active at getting people out before the Nazi Empire came in. But she didn't know about that, and she couldn't get to Czechoslovakia anyways. But then someone in Hamburg knew someone else who could get her up to Hamburg, and then another person could get her onto a ship. And she said, when she was on the ship, it was so scary. All these people forced into the ship, and they didn't know what was going to happen. And they went to Portugal, went around the continent down to Portugal. And then they were all transferred to another ship. No one knew this was going to happen. Somehow, someone arranged it. And there was a point where she ripped her dress, and she said there was this old woman who had had a needle and had figured out how to pull threads out of other things and repaired her dress for her. It was unexpected. It was almost miraculous to have a dress get torn while you're running from a country and to have it be repaired. And she said they crossed the Atlantic, got to the United States, and the day that she stepped out, looking up at the Statue of Liberty, was Easter morning. As a Jewish woman, it changed her understanding of the world, right? And all her life, she said, that one miracle of my life, and especially as she began to learn about how many people died, how many people were murdered by the Nazi state, to realize how miraculous it was. Every breath was a miracle for her, and she lived her life in joy and gratitude and gladness. So I encourage you on this day to look for the miracles, the magic, and whatever practical forces bring it into living, into being. Remember the loving communities that are working to make this world more just. Remember your own worth and goodness and power, and roll away the stone. We'll now listen to the choir and then maybe join with the choir in singing a song about the promise of the ages. From the light of the stars to the light of the face of our beloved, from the distant people on distant continents to those who are near by us, may the Spirit and the power to roll away the stones of doom go with us as we move into the world from this worship service, this time of holy togetherness. Amen.
And now, as we extinguish our chalice, please join in saying the words printed in your order of service or on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and embody in our lives until we are together again. And now our tradition is to join hands in a circle and sing once more together.